Welcome to the Tom Style Show. Thank you, folks. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Today, we have a special guest. This is exciting. This is insane. You know, email is something whatever it is you're doing, whether you're a developer, whether you're an executive, whether you're in sales, marketing, whatever, email is probably taking a significant portion of your day, emailing back and forth, things like that. And a big part of that goes into junk mail rejection, junk mailing, identification, things like that, and all kinds of people that are looking for things and, to filter that out, stuff like that. Now, we have been having so much improvements in AI, so many things happening, but in the email side, not too much. Until now, we got Gated, and we have the CEO and the founder of Gated, Andy Mowat. He is a prolific entrepreneur. He has been starting companies, advising companies, consulting companies, growing them from zero to, some of them are done IPOs, some of them are multi-billion-dollar companies. It's an absolute honor to have Andy. We are very excited. Andy, so before we get started, you got to talk about what is Gated. How did this Gated journey begin?
Tom, so I've basically run, think of it like revenue operations, marketing ops, all of that stuff for 3 unicorns. Box, Upwork, and most recently Culture Amp. I've sent a whole lot of email. Yeah. I'm sure I've caused a lot of your listeners pain. And I think I've sent like 8 or 9 billion, and I've lost count. And wow. I understand the infrastructure deeply. And so 3-4 years ago, I was running growth ops at Culture Amp. We took it up to a unicorn. Yeah. And I was getting, right? So I wrote an email that said, I don't know you. Here's my Venmo. If you want to Venmo me 10 cents, I'll take a look. And so I just started sending it to everyone that annoyed me. And those people started paying me. And they didn't start paying me 10 cents. They started paying me like $10 or $20. And so I built it and hacked it together just on the side, for fun. I gave it to a bunch of execs I knew, and they're like, oh my God, you changed my relationship with email. And so I took money about 2.5 years ago. We spent about a year really perfecting it, and we launched it about a year ago. And we've given it, I think we're sending like 600, 700,000 challenge emails a month. Like, if you're sending to people in the world that we help people, know about Gated, and we're causing a lot of noise in the world.
Yeah. Wow. So this
is... and I guess I would add that now the core of it is if you want to reach somebody, we require a donation to the user's nonprofit.
Okay.
We found that's it's a much nicer way than give me a bunch of money on Venmo.
Yeah, because otherwise that would get filtered out by Google's, the spam filter or something. So basically, Gated is on your Gmail or on your email application, anything you're using, you download Gated. It creates a folder, and all the unknown senders, the people you have not communicated before, all their emails goes to that Gated folder.
Tom, yeah, and then most of them, except for the ones that are sending from like no reply ad or hello ad or marketing ad, we'll get that email, and they'll get that email and say, I know you. If you want to donate to reach me, you can. And there's also, we know sometimes we may send it in error, and so we've got the, hey, if you know me, click here to skip the donation.
Oh, okay. So this is for the, so one of the things I notice, the emails I receive, a lot of them, we gather them together, we call it spam or junk email. But generally, one thing I have noticed, a lot of people are reaching me for things that has nothing to do with me. But for some reason, the sales app they're using, or they kind of thought that would be something I would be interested in, right? So with the Gated, instead of sending mass email, they would start thinking, okay, is this the right person? Should I make that investment?
Here's the goal. I think there was 2 goals. One is you as a user don't control your own attention. Anyone can reach you anytime.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to give that control back. But we also wanted to force people to think, okay, should I have sent this email? Are you the right person? Is what I'm sending even halfway relevant? I've got this woman in Asia. Every quarter or so, she sends me an email for plastic shopping carts that I could customize any way I want. Like, under no circumstance am I her buyer. And so if she got asked for a $2 donation, she's going to pass. And that will never get, it will get sent, but it won't get received. It won't trouble me, I guess.
Yeah. I see. So now let's go back to the donation side. So the donation is a charity of my choosing, right? Any charity I can pick is
1C3 in the U.S. We're putting a little bit of restrictions on it, but I think we can support up to 700,000 nonprofits. We think that's actually a really good way to do it because if you ask for money for yourself, A, Tom, you probably don't want the money.
Yeah.
B, you might feel like over sense of obligation. And so, but I think what we believe is you have the right to your attention. You
Yeah.
can control who can access it, and you can control where that money goes. Is
Yeah.
the way we look at it.
I see. This is I don't want to make a joke out of that, but what if I say, hey, let me do a Tom Foundation 501c3, and you have to donate this much in order to reach me? Is that possible?
It is. I mean, there's like the IRS
Okay.
regulates what is a 501c3, and there's a process. It's like with a GoFundMe account. Like there's a lot of fraud in that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's like the guy that shot up the school. Like there was a thing for him, and then somebody created something special. So I think we kind of felt like 501c3 was the right threshold. That it's not us that has to do the authentication of that.
Yes. Because, just for getting $5 a year, I'm not going to spend another 20 grand with the IRS to fix up all the accounting of a 501c3. So I think the way you're thinking about it, it makes perfect sense. Because so that way, people that are authentic, actually running. Now, one thing that would be good, this is my suggestion. On the 501c3s, if it's a nonprofit that focuses on email technology, I think that would be an ideal place that I want that money to go. But that's for me. Other people have other priorities, because since it's an email-oriented stuff going on, right?
I've seen a lot of cool stuff. Like I've seen, like there's a guy who runs a restaurant software company, and he picked World Central Kitchen, right, which is Chef.
Oh, yeah.
One that has like a feminine product. She picked a Planned Parenthood or whatever it was, and so what I've seen is a lot of people get a guy who has a dentistry software, just has like helping people with their dental needs. And so I think what it's really become fun is we let people put a little bit of their own personality on it.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love it. So gated. Now the thing is, one thing I'm confused. You are providing all these services. You're not charging people anything.
Our core model is you shouldn't have to pay to clean up the dog poop that your neighbor dumped on your lawn. Right? So, the way I look at it is this, Tom, and this is the vision that we had, which is we think it can be sender funded. So we take 30% of the donation as our fee, and we give the tool away for free to users. That is working well, and we've explored, should we also charge users for it? I think we're not going to change the model right now.
So you are getting a percentage of that to run the operations, to keep it going, whereas the nonprofits get benefited. The sender gets to pick and choose who to actually target to, and the consumer is bad. So you're helping everybody. I'm like trying to find a flaw in the system. I'm like, this is all win-win-win. This is what's happening. But this is a fantastic idea, and is this the current product now? You are developing, or you are also adding up new features or new stuff you guys are going into?
We are. So you're right. It is a win-win-win. Users love it. Senders love it. Nonprofits get some free money out of the equation. Plus, they get to spread the brand. I think the thing we've learned is there's some friction in this. You got to be bold to turn it on. And so we are building a tool. And we're currently calling it Gig 2.0, but in about a month and a half, we're launching a tool that can help people on every channel, not just email. And we're going to do it in a the email product will continue, but we believe that we can solve an even bigger problem. And so we're working hard on that one as we speak right now.
Wow. Oh, before we get to that, the thing you mentioned, one of the things when I was thinking about it on my way here, I was like, there is a little confusion on the person that's receiving the email, putting the charity and things like that. It's a little thing in his mind thinking, because if the sender actually does give the $10 to the kitchen or some foundation that I put in, and yet I did not respond, this is a mental feeling, it eating me. I'm like, Tom is such a bad person, So
we spent a lot of time setting the right expectations on that. So I'll tell you this.
Yeah.
Before gated, reply rate to a cold sales email, 1.5% to 2%. If you donate via gated, the reply rate is 46%. So we are 30 to 40xing the reply rate. But we're also very clear when you make that donation. Yeah. It's not 100% for $2, for $5. You don't get it. So we work really hard to set the expectations. And we don't, and that's another reason why, if you took the money yourself to Tom Styles,
Yeah.
You would be like, now I feel obligated. So
Yeah.
we're very clear with users, and some users respond to everyone. Some users respond to only ones that are relevant.
Yeah.
It's your choice. But I will tell you, like, if the reply rate's going to 20 to 30x, it's a good deal all around.
Yeah, that totally makes sense because wow, the reply rate that high, that's pretty insane. That's a huge accomplishment. Now, so you started with the email filtering, email helping with the filtration process, filtering email. Now you're going into full-on communication because it could be text messaging, it could be other platforms, WhatsApp or WeChat or different types of other communication apps, right? And those gets flooded with spam as well. And so you're solving this the 2.0. That's where your app is going to go in all those different platforms. That's a pretty complex problem to solve.
It is, and I would say this is like within email, we stop the noise.
Yeah.
But we know that we're not going to be able to stop the noise when it comes to LinkedIn or to text.
Yeah.
And so what we're looking at instead is how do we help people amplify the right signal rather than kill the noise? And I think that is a problem that you can go broader on, right? So here's how I look at it, Nabi. Now, I can let you in on the sneak peek in about a month or so. But here's what we think is I look at Tom's LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I know what you've done. I know what your title is. I know where you've worked, but I don't know what meetings you want to have and who you want to connect with. And that's what's missing. And I think if we can help that, it can make connections better and more relevant.
Oh, yeah. Because, you have spent quite a bit of time in the marketing side of things for large companies, scaling those platforms. And you have extensive, I watched one of your videos where you talked about so many marketing stuff in the LinkedIn and your expertise in the Facebook marketing and things like that. And I told, when I heard you saying that, I was like, yes, because the LinkedIn, a lot of the messages keep coming in and these are totally irrelevant, or whereas Facebook, generally, it's just right on. It used to be right on. I don't know recently after the Apple fight and all that. I haven't used it much, but still, the advertising is so targeted, and that brings up the question of the privacy and confidentiality and things like that. That also goes back to gated. What kind of data you guys are collecting, and is it safe? My data is safe with gated, things like that. What do you say to that?
We never look at the contents of the email ever. We're only looking at the to and the from information. So I think there's a misperception that somehow we are. I think some people are like, gated's a better spam filter. We're like, no, we don't. We look at, have you communicated with this person before, or have you trusted them, or have you allowed them? But we never ingest the contents of the messages into our system, look at them or analyze them in any way. I think that's the line that Google is using that stuff to advertise to you to do that. And so partially what we did is we said, listen, we're not building a better spam filter. We're not looking at the messages themselves. And so that limits us to some degree on how well we can filter. But also I believe filtering is a long-term losing game, right? So we think a lot of people view us as a filter, but we don't view ourselves as a filter. And so if you say, hey, I need a better filter. Well, if a filter is not really aggressive, crap's going to get in.
Yeah.
Too aggressive, you're like, man, I missed that thing. And so gated is not that way. Gated says, listen, have you communicated with this person before, or have you allowed them or their domain before? Period. And it's very much black and white in that regard.
Wow.
So, I mean, the short answer to your question is we do not look at data. It's like, that's sacred to me because we're building a tool for users first. Now, interestingly, some people have said, oh, you're free, so maybe you are using my data, and we're not. And so there's almost the man should we have charged for it from the beginning to help people dissuade that. But no, we make the money from the sender side.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. That's a very scalable operation. The more people use it, the sender will, feel the need, and it's a very a virtuous cycle. Once it starts, it's gated, cannot be stopped. You're no longer gated. You are you're no longer in a gated community. You're all over because it's gonna keep on spreading. And so the other thing is wow, you have a very interesting thing with the gated.com. I was like, wow, that's a domain name. How did they secure that? That's a very good domain name.
Yeah, I got a call from a guy I've never met, and he founded a very famous company, and he said, I love what you're doing. Can I invest? And I said, I'm sorry, I've run out of room. And he said, okay, well, if I go buy gated.com and hand it to you, will you give me the amount of money for that? And I said, yeah, I don't want to go spend that kind of money on the domain, but if you hand it to me, I'll take it. I'll give it to you in equity. And so we did that deal.
Wow, that's a beautiful, wow, that's beautiful. I have some experience with domain buying, and it's a crazy game. Anytime you try to buy something, they jack up the price.
I was in that game, and this guy, he's like, my hobby is buying domains. He's like, I can get it for you. And he called me back 12 hours later. He's like, this is what it'll cost, and this is the deal that we'll do. And I was like, okay, done. And so I've never met him. I still owe him a lunch, but yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's beautiful. And you remind me, because you publicly publish your email everywhere. You were like Andy@gated.com. Go email me, reach out to me. Whereas everybody's hiding, right? Nobody's like publishing their email. They're like, oh, because then they're going to be all over spam messages, right? But this is a beautiful thing. Back in the days, there was I think life hack or something. One founder, he started giving out his SSN number on billboards or something, and that I think that could be another one of your billboard strategy or advertising strategy, where if you start giving away, people are like, why is he doing that?
A bunch of our users feel comfortable posting their emails. So it's funny, like, if you're in a normal company, I can guess your email, right? Like, there's only 3 formats.
Yeah.
And so, like, the fact, but at the same time, I had one CEO a couple of years ago, and I was like, hey, we should connect, and we're on LinkedIn. He's like, awesome.
Yeah.
Here's my thing. And it was like blank space AT. And he literally like wrote the thing out because he didn't want it to be scraped by LinkedIn, right? So I think people are very scared of it. And so our fundamental premise that you should control the right. So the email's this weird thing where in any other medium, when 2 marketers try to reach you, it'll get bid up. But on email, anybody can send you an email at any time. And so we're trying to fix that problem.
Wow, this is exciting. I love that, and I would love to try it out when the Gated 2.0 comes out. So one more question I have related to Gated, which is multiple domains. Because I run a couple of companies, different domain names, different email addresses, and usually I use an email app on the to get all the emails together, so that way I can go through those, right? So multiple emails. How do I use Gated? Do I have to put it on all of those, and then so it creates the Gated app in each of these email accounts, or how does that work?
Yeah, we built it multi-account from the beginning, right? So I've got my personal, my work there. So imagine if somebody that you know personally then emails you on your work. If you didn't have multi-account, it would be a bad experience, right? And so you can plug them all into one account, as long as right now they're all on the Google infrastructure. I think for our new product, we're looking at it very differently again, right? Which is, we're not trying to filter. We're much more trying to be that layer that the right people can reach you for the right things.
Yeah, that makes sense. So Andy, a lot of startup founders, their first time startup, but you are very experienced. You have been in the game. You have been in the industry. You have taken companies from 0 to 100, or 0 to 1, whatever you call it. Tell us a little bit about your background, and so that our viewers, they can be inspired, the track, what they can do to get to the next level.
Yeah, I had a couple careers. I did Princeton undergrad, New York investment banking, London private equity. I actually ran in 25 the finance function of a grocery store chain in Eastern Europe for a couple of years. Then I came back to Stanford, and I realized I needed to get into tech. And I read Tim Ferriss's book, 4-Hour Workweek, and it inspired me. And so I picked up the phone and I networked into Fabio, the CEO of Elance, and Gary, the CEO of Odesk. I met both of them. I had offers from both, and ended up going with Elance. They ended up merging. I then did another startup, didn't figure out how to scale it tremendously. Then I went to Box, and I ran all their post-sale ops and all their marketing ops. And I spent the last 4 years at Culture Amp. We took the company from like 4 million to 80 million revenue in 4 years, and I worked with great people and great teams. So I guess, for me, it's like at Upwork or Elance, for what it was at the time, like I figured out what I was good at, which was data, systems, processes, and leadership. And then I just kept doubling down on that throughout the rest of my career.
Wow. So, you tried so many different things that gave you the perspective of what you love and what you don't like, right? So because one of the things I hear from very young founders, they just get out of college, start opening companies, and they haven't really experienced a lot of the things in the work culture or in the different ladders of corporate life. And so with the limited experience, first-time founders sometimes feel the problem, and that doesn't work out, and But the career you have chosen is you have gotten great education. You have taken worked in a number of companies, and then used all of that knowledge to now are you full-time into Gated? Are you this is the one you're taking it to the next level?
I'm full-time on it. We're,
Wow.
the funding environment's changed things. Like we were going like this, and so now we've slowed down a little bit, but we're still cranking. It's a weird time, but I'm every time I do something, I'm all in on it, and we're having a ton of fun. I love to talk to people about that. Yeah, you look at my LinkedIn, like I do a little bit of advising and investing on the side, but that's probably like 1 or 2%. But here's the thing I found on that, and it looks like you of it too, is that feeds the Gated side, right? Like if I'm helping out some CEO that's building his company, like I learned about what they're doing. We trade ideas. Like when we were going through the SVB crisis, I was on the phone with 4 or 5 other CEOs that I'd gotten to know because I'm advising them and they're advising me, and so a lot of that stuff. And so early on, I think I had a couple of our employees be like, Andy, are you full in on Gated? And I was like, yeah, let me just remove all these advisory things from my LinkedIn because I don't want there to be a question that I'm all in on this.
Wow. This is, that's a big plus for Gated. That's huge to have you full time. Now, we'll shift gear a little bit. I want to know your perspective on the Valley, the Silicon Valley startup culture, because you have advised companies. Because with the SVB collapse and before that with Facebook kind of not doing as well, things like that, competition from the China side, the TikToks and all these other apps that are popping up. Kind of enthusiasm is a little low, I feel. A lot of the founders, even last year that I talked to that came on the show, they were like, hey, we're raising money, this, that. They were going very, very happy, which is, I feel, is important for a founder to have that happy feeling, right? And then now they're like, yeah, we are thinking about it. We're trying to take one step at a time. I kind of feel the vibe is a little low. What do you think about that?
It's changed. I mean, capital's a lot less free. Even when we built Culture App, right? Like we maybe didn't build it as efficiently, but we screw it. Like when you can grow it by like 20x in 4 years, that's powerful. But like I think the money's tighter now. It's a cyclical thing, right? Like I've lived through 01, 08. Like this is nothing new. But there are going to be a lot of companies that will not make it, and you're going to see less innovation, more consolidation. And hopefully then we come out of it and you see another wave of innovation. So I think I think it's gonna be a tougher time. Like, we will go through that same thing, right? Like we had not been charging users for it, and we seriously thought about it when the funding environments crashed. And so those are interesting decisions that people are facing every day right now.
So one of the things that I think generally comes to the founder's mind is, because back in the days, it was all about grow at all cost. You grow, show the growth, get more money, grow again 10x, keep doing it until you're public and, you go. And, that was the whole thing. Now founders are starting to think, okay, how can we be profitable, or how can we be sustainable? At least keep running the payroll, keep running the company, the operations, have the revenue coming in instead of trying to go bigger. Right. So that kind of what do you and then I also in this scenario I'm like, okay, but in this case the people, as you rightly mentioned, the consolidation, right? People with the capital they can turbocharge their engine because they can buy a bunch of things and they can wait out when the things get better. Then they can be very happy. But how do you kind of advise an entrepreneur that's kind of in that phase what to do? Should I try to should they try to stay in the game without needing further capital by charging the customers, maybe trying to come up with, because yesterday I was even talking to a startup that's almost, I think, in unicorn in China. They are a platform as a service company, and they were looking for very high-end clients, and that's what their most money that comes in. But now they started thinking about even software as a service side of things so that they can start getting smaller clients and keep the revenue going because of the slowdown in the economy. And that's the China side of things. And so how do you kind of see it like in terms of an entrepreneur that's kind of stuck in that situation? They were in the growth phase. Now they're like, hey, we got to slow down the growth a little bit, but maybe start to be, have the revenue base and keep the operations running.
Yeah, I think you ideally want to control your own destiny, but it's very hard if you're trying to scale something. So if you can get to cash flow, get to cash flow. If you try to do what you believe rather than what take advice from your venture people. But I've seen a lot of venture people be like, hire as many people as you possibly can. Wait, stop! Fire as many people as you possibly can, right? So they oversteer. I mean, they love it to death, but they still oversteered on SVB. Like, get the hell out of SVB. Don't want it to fail. And so I think you gotta and this is where me being a founder that has done this 3 or 4 times before is good. So I've got one company I advise, and they raised a bunch of money, and they said the venture firms are saying spend as fast as you can. I'm like, have the discipline. Do you need to? And hold back. And I think you still got to keep it simple and do a few things, right? The people that I see fail, the ones who are like, try this. And it's you got to understand what your superpowers are. And then I think finally, and this is what we're going through, it's intellectual honesty, right? What is working, what isn't working. That's, it's driven a lot of, I wouldn't call what we're doing a pivot, we're adding a new product, but we're adding it because we've seen friction in the signups on the email side, which is the people who use it absolutely love it. But it takes a little while to get you over that hurdle to do that. And so, those are the intellectual honesty conversations you have to have with yourself. And I think a lot of our investors have really appreciated that when we've come back to them and said, listen, this is what we're seeing and this is how we're reacting to it, rather than this blind naivete of we're just going to keep flying the exact same plane the exact same way.
Yeah, no, this is, your advice is right on. I love it. And I hope a lot of entrepreneurs, they listen to you and understand the common sense, not just what the ventures are saying, and go. One thing I got to ask you, because you have a lot of experience in the RevOps and the marketing side of things, right? For now, what is if somebody, let's say they created an app, they're trying to market, they're trying to, they have so many different options, whether it's email marketing or Facebook, whether it's TikTok, or they can create, some people are even creating their podcast to create that, the environment thing going on and, bringing people collaborate. What do you think is a good strategy at this point? Some people are doing through, LinkedIn, a lot of the paid stuff. And some people will be gated through the gated filter. They will be donating things and to get to the inbox, top of the inbox type thing, right? So, what is kind of in your mind would be a good combination of strategies in the marketing side?
There is no one-size-fits-all strategy for marketing. I say, I get asked this all the time. I think one of the best interviews I ever had when I was hiring a demand gen person was they're like, I have the maturity to understand that what worked in my last company probably won't work here. Right. And so what I spend a lot of time is when I talk to CEOs, I say, I'm going to ask you about a half an hour's worth of questions.
Yeah.
And at the end of that, I'm going to give you my thoughts in terms of what I think it's you can do paid ads and all these things, but the beauty of marketing is you innovate and you're pushing the boundaries and and so there is no one size fits all. I had one company come to me and I was talking to the CEO for a while. He's like, hey, I want to hire this person to slam down ads. And after a while, I looked him in the eye and I was like, listen, this is the superpower of your company. Yeah. And here's what I would do instead. And he's like, oh my God, that's so much better. And so I don't think I will never give generic marketing and positioning advice. What I will tell is some of the things that worked really well for us is building a brand, building a vision that people can connect with. I don't know if you've seen our manifesto, right? But it talks about what do we believe? And you may not be a user of Gated, but I've been able to successfully connect a lot of people with the vision from what we're going on. But that's brand, and it's just good execution. But there is no that's the channel. The way I look at marketing is new channels are always going to be more effective than old channels, right? Because old channels have been competed down to the lowest value. But if somebody spins up a new channel, jump all over it, play around with it, see if it works for you. Generally those are working well, but no generic advice.
I see. No, that's very important. Like no, one, that's very good. Now, Andy, I know you have a trip coming up, and I don't want to bore you too much, but any advice for young entrepreneurs, anybody starting out, quitting their job, or people that got laid off from these big tech and they want to start out, they want to go all out and take their vision to the next level. Any word of advice for them?
The question was around people that have been laid off, and what would I do if I was in their
Laid off or coming out of college, anybody but that's looking for an entrepreneurship career where they want to start a company, they want to co-found something with somebody, or they have an idea they want to take it to the next level. Any advice for them?
I got good advice for people who are trying to figure out where they are. I wrote a really good article on mid-career transitions. It's on my LinkedIn profile. It's I think there it's just being really clear and always having a thesis in terms of what's your career is, right? Like if somebody says, Tom, where do you want to be in your career? You're like, God, I don't know. But if you're like, Tom, what's your current thesis? I think that works. For starting things up, I mean, I think a lot of people are like, I want to start, I got to be an entrepreneur. Like I was that way earlier. And then I went to like Box. I was like, man,
Yeah.
these people are really good at executing and operating, and I can learn a lot from them. So my general thing would be like, if you're graduating from college,
Yeah.
if you got something you're deeply passionate about and you want to change the world, go start something. But don't start something because you just feel like you need to start something. Like I didn't start Gated because I wanted to start something. I started Gated because I believed in the problem I was trying to solve. And I think that's, I think a lot of VCs, and you're one of them, you invest, is like a lot of people are looking for people that are going to fight as hard as they possibly can to make that win and to make that work. And so if you're just starting something because it feels like the right thing, don't start something. If you're starting something because you've got to make the world a better place, please go start something.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you, Andy. We love it. Thank you so much. Folks, if you want to check out Andy, download gated.com. Go to gated.com. If you want to reach out to him, Andy@gated.com. He's all over the social media. Reach out to him, and please do subscribe. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tom. Great job.
Thank you, Andy.